Hey folks. Just over 1 year ago today, the latest installment to the Legend of Zelda series, Tears of the Kingdom, was released. And what a year it has been since then. Exploring this much changed and expanded Kingdom of Hyrule has been an experience to remember. From discovering the new locations and features for the very first time, to seeing how the game mechanically improved and built on its predecessor Breath of the Wild. All the way to the Zelda community discussing, hyping up, and at some point, also tearing the game down. It's been quite the year since this game was released, and as a sort of 1 year anniversary video to celebrate, today I'd like to ask the question of, is Tears of the Kingdom still a good game? 1 year on from release. Fan opinions have been very divided on this game for a number of reasons. The number of uploads amongst creators has diminished compared to the frequency during Breath of the Wild's initial hype. Be sure to go and grab yourself a snack and drink, folks. Send them in on my socials for a chance to be featured right here. And with that, let's talk some hot tea on The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, 1 year on. The initial feelings when this game was released were love blind. I absolutely loved everything about it. All of the new Sky Islands, the Ganondorf lore, the thrilling opening, seeing the changes to Hyrule, and taking in all of the new content. However, the first time playing a game, particularly one from your favourite series, comes with blindness. A blindness to flaw. In these early hours, it's near impossible to see flaws or repetitiveness due to the rush of excitement seeing all of the new content for the first time. But that's not to take away just how awesome those feelings were. This game was one of the most anticipated sequels, not just in the Legend of Zelda series, not just in Nintendo history, but in video game history. Breath of the Wild was an extremely popular and loved game. This sequel had been quite a while in the making, so finally being able to play it was just so amazing. Especially interacting with the Zelda community online, sharing discoveries, theories, questions, and what we all love about the game, and how some people were sacrificing Koroks. That was an interesting phase. The initial feelings were just so good. As months went on, things slowly developed and changed, opinions became a bit more solidified, a general understanding of the game's story and lore were being pieced together, tying it to past games and figuring out what's what. However, this is also where some problems began to arise. You see, Tears of the Kingdom kind of throws the rulebook out of the window when it comes to lore. Things don't match up with past lore. Not everything makes complete sense. For some fans such as myself, this isn't an issue at all. I personally don't feel the Zelda series has ever followed a rulebook when it comes to creating lore and history. Some fans feel very different about this, feeling as though the developers just didn't care or consider the lore. For some, this saw their interest in the game drop slightly. A notable drop in uploads from creators was also noticeable, particularly in the lore and theories department. Whether you do or don't care about the lack of answer in the lore is up to yourself, obviously. All I'll say is that the more mysteries and questions created by keeping things subtle and not quite pieced together perfectly is exactly what forms Zelda theories and provides a space for us fans to come up with our own ideas of how things piece together, a true foundation in Nintendo games. Our imagination and creativity. The debate across how good the game actually is was also questioned due to the recycled usage of the same base world. Despite the addition of the depths and the Sky Islands, and the amazing new mechanics, this was still in the same world as the last game, and that was very noticeable. Between the questions of lore and doubts of the same world setting in, the fanbase slowly became more and more divided, on the two sides of this game being fantastic and innovative, and the side of it being lackluster, lazy in lore, and as if there should have been much more given the weight there was for this game. So how does it feel now, 1 year on? Obviously that recap isn't going into literally everything. I mean, I've been talking about it for the past year, but generally, that's my take. Opinions are fairly settled in now for most fans. A divide has been created, but looking at things now, how does it feel? Is the game still good? Well, the simple answer for me is Yes, Tears of the Kingdom is one of the best Zelda games ever created if you ask me. I can feel you lore nitpickers in the comments ready to tear me down, but hold your horses. Look at this as a video game, not a history lesson. It has cool dungeons in an open air setting, which whilst I believe they need more depth to them, especially in terms of enemies, they were still really fun from start to finish. They were an adventure, particularly the wind and lightning temples. The story of the game is generally one of the most badass out there thrilling adventures for the ages. Zelda vanishes into the abyss, sent back in time. Link explores the regional changes to try and figure out what's going on. We learn a ton of Zonai lore along the way, and by the end of it all, we learn that, and spoiler alert folks, Princess Zelda transformed into a dragon. For me personally, this story is extremely replayable. I enjoy it. It's an emotionally enticing story that sucks me in. I become invested in the characters, devastated at certain deaths, happy crying over joyful moments. It's amazing. So as a story, and just the story isolated, brilliant. But the actual process of playing through and progressing the story, that's another story. Over the past year, I've started to feel like this game is a little less motivating than others to replay as frequently, and it's down to it being in the same world as last time. I love praising this game. I love explaining why I love the lore, world building, story, and whatnot when it feels like most people don't. But I will happily and honestly admit that I struggle to find the motivation to actually play the game often. Sure, I am on the game very often, but that's just for recording footage. In terms of actually playing through a file for the game itself, it's tough. The first time was really fun, but the world is just so familiar that sometimes exploring for the sake of finding changes to an already existing world just isn't enough to get me playing. It's worth it when the key points of the story happen. That's what I meant by as an isolated story, it's fantastic. But there's just so much in between which makes it hard for me to want to play through, especially when I'm walking through a world that I've already played. Whether as with games such as Twilight Princess, The Wind Waker, even Ocarina of Time, they are their own individual worlds. I wouldn't call it a love-hate relationship with playing, but for example, I really enjoy making world lore videos, looking at old ruins and talking about what they could have been like in their prime, what life was like for those that occupied them, and so on. With this game, I feel like I'm actively searching very hard to find stuff to talk about, stuff that I can actually make a full video on. With past games, such as when Breath of the Wild was new, and thus this world was new, that wasn't a problem. I love it. It just feels like a bit more effort than it should be at times. I think if I was to suggest going about replaying it, I wouldn't touch it for a few months, and then go in fully fresh. Because that's the thing, I enjoy just hopping on for a wee bit and running around, grabbing some cork seeds, doing some side quests or whatever. But I think to enjoy a replay as much as I can, I need to not do any of that for a few months to sort of forget the game and learn to enjoy it fully once again. I know this sounds dramatic, but it's the best way I could think to word it. To conclude my mess of thoughts, like most of my discussion type videos, Tears of the Kingdom is still an amazing game with an amazing story and fun lore. Yeah, I like the lore. It's unanswered and breeds mysteries and theories. I can't stand the complaining about inconsistencies and unanswered questions, because that's literally every Zelda game ever, and why we see so many sick theory, lore and mystery videos online. These are created because we don't know the answers, because there's inconsistencies. It gives us, the fans, a place to get creative and fill the gaps. Anyway, 1 year on from release, and the game is good, but flawed in the sense that not everything is brand new. So unless you didn't play or watch any of Breath of the Wild, which I feel most Tears of the Kingdom players have, then it's hard to play it again and again without things feeling a wee bit boring after a while. The game struggles to hold up for me personally nowadays. I need to really be in the mood for it, and that seems to rarely come. Even with insanely awesome new mechanics, 2 new areas to explore, and a story for the ages, everything else between those just doesn't do enough to keep me going. I hate to admit it in some ways, but I want to be truthful. I love the game, but it can very easily bore me now, 1 year on from release. But this isn't to bash the game or say it itself is bad. Like I said, that first playthrough, like most games, is an experience I'll never forget. I hold this game in such high regard and love talking about it and its in-game contents. Hell, I even got a tattoo of the gloom-corrupted Master Sword from it. It's not bad. It just struggles to hold up over time in terms of how exciting it is. That's how I'm feeling 1 year on. But what about you lovely folks? What do you think of Tears of the Kingdom 1 year on? Do you still enjoy it as much as you did on day 1? Has the enjoyment vanished? Or are you somewhere in the middle? Let me know down below in the comments how you're feeling about it. I'm sure when this game is as old as the likes of Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess and so on, it'll be looked back as an absolute marvel of a game. But right now, it's only been 1 year. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed and want to see more fabulous Zelda content, then be sure to drop a cheeky wee like down below, as well as consider subscribing. A massive thanks goes to my channel supporters for helping to make these videos possible. Across both YouTube memberships and Patreon, you can financially support the channel and these videos. I offer a weekly inside scoop post, your name at the end of my videos, and a shout out upon joining. The links to support can be found down in the description if you're interested. Also down there are my social media accounts and Discord server if you'd like to keep up to date with me. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day or night, and until the next time, I've been Hyrule Gamer.